Hey guys, and welcome to my Celestial Dragons guide. So in this video I will show you how to kill them efficiently with the gear setups, the inventory setups, and various requirements and that kind of stuff. So first off, you're going to need to know the requirements to kill these guys, and there's a few of them that are pretty high level, I guess. The first requirement, you do need to have one of a kind quest done, which I think is a Grandmaster or maybe a Master quest. I don't really remember. And you're just going to need to have that to go to the resource dungeon where they are. And on top of that, for stats, they're not, requirements, but I'd recommend at least 80 ranged or, 80 combat if you're going to melee or mage. I'm not going to show you guys the melee or mage setup. I know melee can work here. I haven't really tried mage, but I do know that melee does work here. But I would just recommend using range the entire time. And then I also would recommend having 95 prayer. You don't really necessarily need it, because you can also use the regular prayer counterpart of anguish. So you can use like the piety version of range, basically. And you also don't need soul split here, so it's basically just for the DPS prayers. I would just recommend having high summoning as well, so you can use like a tortoise to bank bones or a yak to bank bones if you're doing that method. I won't be showing that method because I feel like it's better to bury the bones, but we'll get into that. And then if you have 99 summoning, that's great because the Steel Titan does speed up your kills. Having a combat familiar here in general is pretty good. And then finally, I would recommend having about 85 Herb Lore to have super anti-fires. You don't necessarily need extremes, but they do help. But I feel like a super anti-fire is a necessity here. Otherwise, you're not really going to do that much damage because you're going to be forced to have the Dragonfire Shield, or at least have like, Prey Mage and regular anti-fires the entire time. So I really wouldn't recommend doing these guys if you do not have that. So as for the gear, I would just recommend having like Arma or even Void if you're not on a Slayer task. I should have maybe used Void here in the video, but either way, they both work. And then on Slayer task, I would recommend having the Slayer Helm, obviously, and I would probably just use Arma. You don't really need Pernix or higher because you're not taking any damage, so might as well have a non-degradable armor set. And then for the accessories, I would just say, the best cape you have, especially if like you have an Ava's or something. And then any ring of your choice, really doesn't matter. Your Charming Imp is very good to have as well, and then any aura. And then the two items that you really need are the, the bolts. You can either use like Ascension bolts if you're using Ascension crossbows, and I would only use Ascension bolts if you have the Ascension crossbows and are on task. And then if you're off task, I would recommend having Dragonbane bolts with the Ascensions. And if you don't have Ascensions, you have like a tier 80 weapon, I would use Dragonbane bolts the entire way, and that's because it increases your accuracy. And if you're on task, you don't really need that extra accuracy because you already got it from the Slayer Helm, so you can use the Ascension bolts for extra damage. And then the last item you're going to need is the amulet I'm wearing, which is the Demon Horn Necklace. And you get it from Dunge, which is like 40k tokens or something like that, maybe 34k. I don't really remember the exact number, but what it does is every time you bury a bone, whether it be manually or through a bone crusher, it gives you prayer points based on the value of the bone. So if you bury a dragon bone, for example, you get 150 prayer points back every time. And because you kill the Celestials so fast, you basically don't need any prayer here, even with Soul Split and Anguish on the entire time. So yeah, it basically saves money on the prayer potions, but I would only use that method if you're not going to be banking the bones. But it is more kills per hour, and technically that way be more, money and then more experience as well. Then as for the inventory, you can just copy my setup. Basically what I'm using is, the Holy Overloads you can downgrade as you like, and then obviously the super anti-fires you can downgrade if you need to. But just remember, if you're using the regular anti-fires, either bring a DFS or use Magic Prayer the entire time. If you're doing the prayer method I'm doing, you don't necessarily need the super restores. I just bring them just in case, and I bring the food in case as well. You're also going to need an ectophile to teleport here. A spring cleaner also works really well because it, if you use it to dismantle all of the rune and addy drops, it really helps with the quality of life for here. And then get a bone crusher if you're going to be doing the demon horn necklace thing. And then I got a steel titan pouch because I'm using that. Alright, so for the actual dragons, I would recommend killing them in the northeast spot, right where I'm standing, so you can do more of the Death Swiftness, which does increase your DPS. And remember, this is the first day of the new combat improvements, so I was still getting used to all of the new improvements to Revolution and stuff. It's kind of a different pattern of when you do the thresholds and such like that. I'm getting a little better with it, but either way, you just unload on these guys. You basically just Revolution because it makes it AFK, and then I would use a threshold every time you get it. Work up to Death Swiftness as much as possible. Also, you could probably bring Adrenaline Pots because they do, give you more adrenaline for the thresholds when you're using Death Swiftness. But I feel like it's fine either way. I don't really need to bring them, I guess. And then because you're bearing the bones every single time and your spring cleaner is getting rid of the rune drops, all you have to really pick up is the coin drops and the noted items. And yeah, you basically just kill them. I mean, I'm not going to really go into the ability bar setup. If you want to just like copy my ability bar, that's fine. But if you're using Revolution, you should be definitely fine here. You're not going to take any damage if you have super anti-fires or have full anti-fire. And one last thing, they do have like a special attack where if you take too long to kill them, they stun you for 3 to 4 seconds or something like that. And then you're frozen. And that's why it kind of does suck if you have multiple on you. But I would still keep Ricochet on your bar just because it's more DPS. And it really isn't that much of a problem if you're getting a lot of DPS out. But basically you cannot like prevent that. The only way actually you can prevent it is if you kill it fast enough, obviously. But you can't use anticipation or freedom, you're just stuck with it. But it really isn't that much of a problem because if you're unloading your thresholds and your death swiftness, you really shouldn't get it all that much. Every now and then you might get one if you did use Ricochet on another dragon. But overall, I mean, they're pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And let's see the price check of my test. Alright, for the actual test, I got 110 kills without having a Slayer task. So that means, you know, it would be 12.5%, you know, more kills per hour with a Slayer task. And obviously you get Slayer experience along with that. So for this loot, that's 110 kills worth. And I used the Spring Cleaner, so that's where the 25 Runite ore and the 200 coal is coming from. And the cost of the springs would be like 5 springs, I believe, so that's not that much. That's like, what, 2,500 GP? So it's negligible. And then for other supplies, it's pretty negligible as well. You're not really spending that much money in supplies here other than your potions, and that's about it. And maybe your Steel Titan scrolls, that's about it. I mean, there's really not that much supply cost. And let's just price check for the 30 minutes. So I got 1.26 mil. So if you times that by 2 to get the 1 hour rate, that's about 2.5 mil or so. So that's pretty average. That's just if you don't get any drops at all. And you probably will get drops every few hours or so. Maybe even more common than that, because they drop all of the Dragon Rider pieces. You know, the visages, the celestial hand wraps, if you're on task, only for that item. And then you can also get like the Dragon Rider kit as well. So, I mean, it's 2.5 mil an hour for my test. And if you bank the bones, I don't know if it'd be more money per hour, probably less, to be honest, because you kill less per hour. And it's definitely less experience. So I just recommend bearing the bones, like I said earlier, for the extra prayer. But, you know, 2.5 mil an hour for a Slayer task isn't that bad. I mean, if you're on Slayer task, that could bump it up to almost 3 mil an hour. Not to mention, if you do get a drop, that will skew the hourly rate up to 3 mil. That's why the guide is 3 mil an hour on the thing. I know I'm max stats and everything, but you can expect easy 2 to 3 mil on average if you know, get drops over time. If you're gonna like definitely camp these guys, you'll get that rate, or, you know, just do Slayer task all the time. And as for the charms, they're very good crims. If you times that value by 2, that's 292 crimson charms. So it's about 300 per hour, I'd say. That's around there. That's one of the best crimsons in the game. Not the best, obviously, because, you know, water fiends are better. But I mean, for a monster, you're making 2.5 mil an hour guaranteed, basically, and very good combat experience as well, which I'll go into in a second. The charms are very nice. They add another reason to do this monster. So for the combat experience, with the 220 per hour kill rate that I had, that is 415k ranged per hour, and that comes with 105k HP experience per hour as well. So overall, I mean, you're getting like 520k combat experience per hour. It's pretty close to 220, 230k Slayer an hour as well. And then you're also getting 2.5 mil an hour upwards, depending on your stats and your luck here. So yeah, they're not really that bad of a monster. Go try them out if you want to. Definitely go kill them if you haven't tried them yet, or at least do them on Slayer tasks, because they are worth it. That's it for me. I hope this guide helped, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.